Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV, and today we're going to be taking a look at Godfazer and Tekturon, which are a phaser and a multi-tap delay plugin, and using them to create a very retro sounding synth. And I have an example track just to sort of show you what we're going to be making. Let's take a look at that real quick. Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive into this synth sound. This is why you're here. How exactly does this synth sound work? And so the patch is itself a Harmar. So we have a Harmar generating the sound. That goes into a Godfazer. So it gets split, goes two ways. The first one goes through a Godfazer. This provides the detune sort of phasiness. The detune vibe's pretty important to get right though. And that also goes through a Maximus, which is pulling up the mids and the highs, and it actually removes the lows. Because on this sound, I don't need them, and I was getting a little bit of it, and I just said, just be gone, you low-end stuff, I don't need you. And in here, we've got another line, and this one goes into Tekturon, the multi-tap delay. And this is the other bit that's kind of really important with retro sounds, is getting the detune right and the delays. A lot of them have delays of some form on them, and they're not on every sound, but it is a pretty common trope to have this sort of echoey thing going on. So that's going all out, and after this, there is a little bit going on inside the mixer. If we go to the patcher, it's going through some side chaining, and then out another Maximus, and this Maximus turns on only during this section. It's actually this bottom, or not this bottom one, this top automation. So over here, that Maximus is off. And so I do not pull up the mids and the highs as much right here. But right here, it's on, and you'll notice that the filter's gotten very low. And right when the filter gets really low, so there's not much spectrum left, I yank it all up with that Maximus. And if we turn everything off except the synth, you get this really lovely, airy, but toned back quality that I just really liked. So that's what that Maximus is doing. Let's take a look further at the Tekturon in the Godfazer. Well, I guess we should start at the beginning of the patch, because if you don't understand what I did in the patch, these moves are going to be meaningless. So, all right, starting us off, we start with the Harmar. Inside of Harmar, we've got a couple key things going on. First up, there's a filter up here. It's the crude low pass filter. It's the default filter. And I am automating this guy all over the place. So when we look at it on here, it starts off very low. And if I move across, if I put this on the screen a bit more, if I move across, you can see that knob is moving. So this is the automation for that low pass filter. And we see here that I'm sort of bringing it up with the phrase, taking it back, swelling it a bit, and then I deliberately pull it down because I'm going to do some cool things with Maximus later. So this right here is a kind of an unusual move for this isn't really a drop, but just like a realization. Like we're moving now. The beat comes in. We get the low kick drum coming in. I want to work with the sub bass a bit more. It's a bit boomy at the moment, but that's besides the point. So anyways, that's the filter. And on the filter, there's an articulation. Now, it's shown right here, but you can also right-click on it and go to Edit Articulation. And it's basically just moving up and down, and that's creating the wow, wow. That's creating that shape for us. And if we play it, now let's go into the patcher real quick and turn off the effects so you can hear just what Harmar's putting out. So that's just Harmar. And so with this going on, there's some unison going on with a a very large amount of pitch variation between everything, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of pitch variation. The reason is this also has an articulator that's doing this mess. So it actually removes a lot of the pitch variation and then brings it back up near the end of the note. And this helps tone the note back, but also make the note a little fuzzy. That's what it would sound like without this. So this is actually really important. Versus. It just adds that extra like little bit of warmth. This pitch variation is a subtle move, but as it opens up, it becomes a more apparent move. Let's go to a spot where the filter is a bit more open. And now we'll do that without. Because this knob's now just sitting there, not moving anywhere. And as a result, when the filter is going through its envelope and opening and closing, this just sort of sticks out more like a sore thumb. So I actually dial it back during that moment. So just kind of a cool thing. It's something that's unique to Harmar. You don't usually see controls like this as accessible as easily. I'm on order 4. I just picked an order that was more than 2. You could use a chorus to accomplish a similar thing. I like the unison in Harmar. There's a bit of reverb going on. I just basically turned this on. I didn't really mess with that much. And a bit of compression, again, pulling up the mids and the highs, not doing anything to the lows. And it's on the mode heating. So that's basically what's going on in here. There is one other key setting, and that is the resonance. So up here, I've got a resonance dialed in, and it is on wormhole with a very high width. This is important. If you try and do this and you don't get the resonance right, you're going to get a really different sound. Like if I go for classic. So yeah, just so you know, I'm using the wormhole. There are a couple others that will accomplish similar sounds. But that's what I have dialed in there. And I'm sitting mostly saw wave, but I've got a bit of square in there. It could be cool to vary it up. I just decided I liked that a bit more. So after we've set ourselves up in Harmar, we go through a chorused path along with some multiband stuff, and we go through a delayed path. And these are both pretty classic tropes. The chorusing offers additional detuning and some phasiness, which will really just sort of sell the effect, or in my opinion, make it what it's supposed to be. And the delay is for space and having just a really nice echo. This is another thing that's just really, really common to the genre. So let's really quick observe 2 important things that we have going on in Harmar that sort of play to our effects that we're going to be putting on. The first is this pitch automation, or the pitch articulator that we looked at earlier. This provides some of that detuning already a little bit. And so keep in mind, this is going to be hitting the additional processing we're going to be doing. And also the reverb. We're doing the reverb at a very early stage. Normally you'd put the reverb somewhere closer to the end, but we're just going to do it inside of Harmar and let it feed through the other 2. And this just also kind of helps like mold everything together. You could try it without it. It could sound really great without it, but I chose to put it in at the beginning. That's something you might see someone else do differently. So if we go in, first let's check out the delay path. So if we add the delay in, it already it fits so much better. This is just such a great thing, and it's a really easy thing to do. You can do it with pretty much any sort of a delay, but the multi-tap delay, they just have amazing presets. Like, it's so easy to find what you want. And so I came in and I just was digging around, and I saw this one called Jumping Jacks, and I think I had clicked on like 4, and I came across this one. It was pretty much exactly what I wanted. 16th note delay going on, slowly turns things down, and that's literally all I did. Like, it's extremely fast move, super simple to do, and then I just sent that directly out. So that was a very easy thing to set up. Now on the chorus side, if we take a listen to this, immediately it becomes a lot more filtered. And if we open up Godfazer, what I did for this one, again, I just went for the presets because they're just really well thought out. And there's one in here called Rotary. And Rotary, Tremolo, and Vibrato are all great things to look at. But Rotary in particular If you know what a Leslie speaker is, it's like they've got a spinning mechanism in there, and the speaker has a really unique sound to it. I kind of wanted something like that. And so I went for rotary. These were the ones that came up, and I ended up going for Leslie slow. And the rest is history. So the reason I was looking for something like this was because I knew I wanted phasing, and I knew I wanted it to have some element of change over time. And a preset like this, I knew was probably going to take advantage of some sort of modulation to do that, because that's just what you do, especially like with the word rotary, tremolo, or vibrato. You kind of expect modulation to be in there with an LFO of some sort. And if we look here, that's exactly what we have going on. So I was just sort of saying, hey, do you already have something that does this? That way I don't have to set it up. And they did. And it was called Leslie, which was also sort of there's a reference to the speaker. And so I kind of knew what I was going to get out of it. So again, really, really nice that way. And that was pretty much all I did there. No such thing as dissecting and looking at what every single little thing did. I already knew the general effect I wanted. I knew how to look it up, and just put it in there. So that's what this is doing, and it just adds that phasiness to it. And if we actually just go straight out, let's turn this off and just hear out of the Godfazer. It is a lot less bright, and I wanted to change that. So what I did was I took a Maximus, put it in the chain. This is on. Let's turn the delay on too. And I took out the bass because I just didn't need it. You see there's some going on there, and this pretty much removes it. It's sort of an odd way to remove it. That's just what I ended up doing. And we go through some mids. We bring the mids up a bit, and we bring the highs up quite a bit more. And this just brightens it up. And that's the patch. Like after that, you're solid. I mean, the real key elements are finding a nice delay and a nice chorus and getting that filter articulator going and the pitch articulator going and the resonance. That's like a lot of key points. But if you get all those things right, you're going to have something similar. It's going to produce a similar effect. The rest is sort of just icing on the cake. So that's what's going on in here. Now, there's a spot here that changes, and you're probably interested in what exactly I'm doing here. So when it changes, all I'm doing is I have another Maximus, and when that filter comes down, because you notice this filter comes to quite low, if I actually turn this off, so right now the Maximus mix is at 0. So let's just listen to this. So that's what it sounds like. Now let's bring this on, and we're going to mix a Maximus in. And what this Maximus does is it brings the mids up a bunch, and it also brings the highs up a bunch. It doesn't do anything with the lows. I don't really have any lows at this point, so I wasn't worried. And if we listen to it now, it's quite a bit warmer, and you notice this part's also just a lot more controlled, because as this comes on, it's going to do a crossfade between the original and this, and it wound up producing this sort of it's not thin, but it's definitely a different space, and I just really liked the result of it. It's one of those happy accidents. So I ran with that, and then if we toss it all in with the drums, that is pretty much how this patch functions. I mean, I can't really think of anything else to say about it. There's also something kind of important that goes on here. These are higher notes than these. So I actually wrote this out as one phrase and split it up as I was working on this little track. And this is the intro chords. And this is actually this second part. So these actually move up, which changes how it works with the filtering things, which also sort of adds to the character of this sort of nice mellowed out thing. But anyways, that's that. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.